Imagine the wind off the Sea of Galilee, cutting through the stillness of dawn. There, a simple fisherman, hands roughened by labor, awaited another seemingly ordinary day. But this man, James, had no idea. The gaze of Jesus was about to change the course of his eternity. The call wouldn't be to cast nets into the water, but to cast hope into the hearts of people. Among boats and nets, James the Greater was pulled from the ordinary into the extraordinary. His life would become a journey of courage, faith, and ultimate surrender. This video invites you to walk alongside James, not as a distant figure, but as someone also searching for meaning amidst life's waves. Throughout this journey, you'll discover that the marks of your own story resonate with his. The echoes of a first-century apostle can still speak profoundly to a 21st century soul. Prepare to feel the weight of the call, the intensity of faith, and the beauty of surrender. And maybe leave a comment about which part of this journey touches your heart the most. But before reaching the end of his path, let's go back to the beginning, when everything was just the sea, the boat, and a gaze that would change destiny. James worked alongside his brother John, casting nets in the quiet of the morning. The timid sun reflected on the waters, and the world seemed still, waiting for something great. Then came the call that would shatter routine and rewrite his story. "Follow me," Jesus said, with the authority of one who sees beyond the waves. It wasn't an ordinary invitation, but a direct pull toward the impossible. James felt his heart quicken, as if every cell knew that something eternal was beginning. In that instant, he left the nets behind, abandoning the comfort of the familiar. Can you feel the silent courage it takes to take that first step? The sea went on, indifferent, as James stepped into the realm of the extraordinary. And perhaps, reflecting on your own life, you wonder, what would you have to leave behind to answer a call? As he walked side by side with Jesus, the landscape shifted, but the challenge remained. Here emerged the first glimpse of a life, marked by purpose and daring. Every step was an invitation to faith, a lesson that would echo through centuries. But the true test of his calling was yet to come. James followed Jesus along dusty roads, through villages, and across sunlit seas. Each step revealed stories, miracles, and words that penetrated the soul. He saw hunger turned into bread, pain into hope, and despair into faith. Every gesture of Jesus was a silent invitation to a life that transcends time. But the journey was far from easy. Persecution and suspicious glances tested his courage. James learned that following a purpose requires more than desire. It demands total surrender. Alongside the other disciples, he shared laughter, doubts, and sleepless nights. In those moments, you realize that true faith also grows from companionship and mutual support. Every teaching was a seed planted in James' heart, ready to blossom. And thinking about your own life, what seeds are waiting to sprout within you? Between parables and miracles, James felt his heart inflamed by the mission unfolding. Discipleship revealed that faith is, above all, a living, breathing experience. Even in the shadows of fear and uncertainty, he began to understand his own strength. The man who left the nets was becoming someone capable of transforming the world. But the path was far from over, and greater challenges were looming. James learned that following Jesus wasn't just walking under the sun, it was facing storms. Every bold word, every miracle, drew suspicion and hidden enemies. There were moments when faith was measured against the intensity of fear. James had to choose between stepping back or standing firm in the face of adversity. He witnessed confrontations that shook towns and hearts, yet never faltered. True courage, he discovered, isn't the absence of fear. It's action despite it. And as you watch, perhaps you hear an echo of that courage in your own struggles. How many times does life quietly demand that we face internal and external tempests? James showed that confrontations reveal more than external strength. They reveal who we truly are. Each challenge mirrored the faith growing in his restless heart. Even surrounded by doubt and opposition, he remained a beacon of determination. In that beacon, you can find light for your own dilemmas and difficult choices. Between conflict and courage, James learned that loyalty comes at a high cost. But every act of bravery was a step toward a purpose that transcended life itself. And so, the disciples' path grew more intense, demanding, and transformative. James witnessed hands that healed and words that transformed hearts. Every miracle was an invitation to believe in the impossible and see beyond appearances. He learned that faith is action and hope manifests through concrete gestures. What seems ordinary in human hands becomes extraordinary and eternal in God's. But James was not just a spectator. He became a messenger of transformation. With every teaching, a seed of light was planted for all who listened. And reflecting on your own life, which teachings resonate most deeply with you? Small acts of kindness can carry the same power as grand miracles. He saw hunger satisfied, the lame walk, and even death bow before faith. These moments engraved in James' heart the importance of serving with courage. As the journey continued, he understood that true power lies in love. Not in control, not in strength, but in the ability to touch lives sincerely. The disciple learned that teaching and healing walk hand in hand like shadow and light. And perhaps you feel a call to share wisdom and hope in your everyday life. Between miracles and lessons, James became increasingly aware of the mission he carried. James learned that following Jesus demanded more than courage. It demanded total surrender. Every choice, every step, brought him closer to a destiny beyond life itself. He saw that the mission was not just to comfort hearts, but to face suffering. Sacrifice became the price of fidelity, and faith, the strength that upheld his soul. And reflecting, perhaps you recognize times when life quietly demanded courage. How often must we give up comfort to embrace something greater than ourselves? James realized that true love is revealed when we place others above ourselves. Every act of devotion echoed into eternity, even amid imminent pain. Knowing the consequences, he did not falter. The call was stronger than fear. James' courage reminds us that a full life is found in commitment to what is right. The disciple felt the weight of the world, but faith shielded him from doubt. And you, facing your own trials, can sense the strength that arises from faith and purpose. Every sacrifice became a story. Every renunciation, a mark in time and heart. Yet the most difficult moment of his journey was still ahead. James walked side by side with John, sharing confidences, fears, and dreams. Between laughter and silence, friendship became a safe harbor amid life's storms. Above all, there was Jesus, whose presence turned every step into a lesson. The Master was not just a leader. He was a beacon illuminating unknown paths. James discovered that true friendship grows in trust and mutual surrender. With John, he shared doubts and joys, learning to face challenges together. Have you noticed how certain friendships shine light in the darkest moments? They remind us that we are never alone, even when the world seems indifferent. Intimacy with Jesus taught him that listening is as important as acting. Every gesture, glance, and word was a silent lesson in love and compassion. And on nights when fear crept close, James found courage in the quiet embrace of friendship. These bonds shaped his faith, making it as solid as a rock amidst waves of destiny. Alongside John and Jesus, he experienced a rare, almost sacred tenderness, a strength preparing his heart for the darkest moments yet to come. And thus, intimacy and friendship became secret weapons of courage and hope. James felt the weight of intolerance as voices of hatred rose against him. The same man who walked with Jesus now faced threats testing his faith. Every step outside the safety of the group felt like walking on invisible coals. But he learned that true courage reveals itself when standing firm against injustice. And perhaps, hearing this, you recall moments when you had to stand your ground, when the world seemed to crumble and your faith was questioned by hostile eyes. James saw friends rejected and persecuted, yet fear never ruled his heart. Persecution did not extinguish his light. It made it shine even brighter. He realized that fidelity demands resistance, and faith silent patience. Every insult, every threat, was a test, an invitation to trust in a higher power. In confronting the world, James discovered that courage and faith walked together. Even in shadows, he remained steadfast, like a rock against a rushing current. Reflecting on your own life, perhaps you feel the call not to yield to fear. Facing intolerance may very well be the gateway to a deeper, truer faith. And as he faced these trials, James' path approached an even more intense chapter. James began to see that every renunciation left deep marks, yet revealed his true essence. Sacrifice did not weaken him. It strengthened his spirit and clarified his purpose. Every challenge, every moment of pain, shaped the disciple as a potter shapes clay. He understood that the greatness of faith is measured in the persistence through suffering. And perhaps you notice how difficult moments quietly transform life. What seems like loss becomes learning, and pain, a silent, powerful teacher. James felt his heart ignited by a faith that could not be contained. Every courageous act brought his soul closer to what we call eternity. Sacrifice became a bridge between the human and divine, the ordinary and extraordinary. Along this path, he discovered that true strength comes from complete surrender. Even knowing the risks and final cost, James accepted his destiny with serenity. Because true transformation requires more than words, it demands courage to act. And so, he prepared for the pinnacle of his journey, where faith and sacrifice would meet. James knew his life belonged not only to himself, but to all who would come after. Every act of faith, every word of courage, planted seeds of hope in hearts. He left an invisible yet tangible trail that would span generations. The disciple showed that courage is measured not just in battles, but in the constancy of faith. And reflecting, do you see the legacy your own choices leave behind? Every act of love and surrender resonates beyond what the eyes can see. James demonstrated that true strength is spiritual and eternal, not physical. The impact of a life devoted to good transcends time and history. He inspired others to believe in the impossible, even when everything around seemed to collapse. And perhaps, in your own experiences, you recognize the power to inspire someone else. James' legacy wasn't wealth, but faith, courage, and integrity. Every step he took was a silent invitation for others to rise. And as his earthly life neared its end, his influence remained immortal. For those who surrender to faith, leave marks that time can never erase. James reached the point where faith merged with the infinite and the human touched the divine. Every glance, gesture, and word became a bridge between the finite and the eternal. He understood that a true encounter with God doesn't demand grand feats, but total surrender, a quiet heart, and the courage to remain faithful. And perhaps you feel something similar in the small epiphanies of your own life, when the world seems to pause and something greater speaks directly to your soul. James experienced the mystique of love that transcends pain and transforms history. Every moment became eternal. Every choice carried the light of a divine purpose. The disciple realized life is brief, but faith is immortal and echoes across time. He became a witness that courage, love, and surrender are keys to the sacred. And you, reflecting on your own journey, do you feel the call to live more fully? To notice that every action, no matter how small, can touch the infinite? The encounter with the divine is quiet, intimate, and transformative. And like James, each of us can allow this mystique to transform our own story. Thus, his life intertwines with eternity, and every gesture becomes a bridge of light. The life of James the Greater teaches us that courage, faith, and surrender walk hand in hand. Every step, every sacrifice, every act of love leaves marks time cannot erase. He shows that true greatness isn't measured by titles or wealth, but by the ability to touch lives and inspire hearts through one's own faith. And so, James' story becomes an invitation to reflect, act, and transform, to realize that every choice carries the power to create echoes beyond ourselves. Looking at your own journey, you can find moments of silent courage, seeds of faith that, if planted today, will blossom into something greater than we can imagine. Share in the comments how James' story resonates with your life. Which lessons of courage, friendship, and surrender do you carry or wish to cultivate? And if this journey through time and faith touched your heart, subscribe, like, and ring the bell so we can keep exploring stories that transform together. Because in the end, every courageous life, like James, is a beacon that lights up eternity.